So the first and the main underlying issue, the very core root issue, is shame. Codependency is two shame-based people trying to have a relationship and trying to solve their shame. So shame is a core belief that comes out of complex trauma. So when a child is neglected or abused or abandoned, they personalize that and they go, I must be neglected because I'm not good enough. It's my fault. And they develop a belief that says, I must not be lovable. I must not be valuable. The only thing that will give me value is not who I am, but what I do. And so if I'm going to get other people to like me, I got to do stuff for them because that will give me value. Then they will appreciate me. So codependency is an attempt to use relationships to try and solve the shame problem. Problem is it doesn't work. And we'll show that as we go along. But I want to give you this diagram because when we talk about shame, what you're really talking about is your core identity. And for most people, they're not even aware of what they believe about themselves at a core level because it's all subconscious. They've never brought it to the conscious level. Okay? So this diagram might help you understand that. So there's 4 circles. So the internal circle is the real you. Now, it's important to understand when I say the real you, that's what you think you are. Okay? So that is your inner picture of who you think you are, and that is not good enough. That you don't like parts of your personality. You don't like parts about how you interact with people, how you think, all of your emotional world. There's all kinds of things that you wish weren't there, but they are. And so your perception is, I don't like the inner me. I wish I was something different. And so that's what you consider your real self. Okay, then around that is what we call the critic. And that's the shame person, the shame belief. And so that is always looking at the real self, what you think is the real self, and saying, you're a loser, you can't do anything right, nobody's ever going to want you, you're never going to amount to anything, criticize, 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 okay? So that's going on inside of you. Well, nobody wants to live with that because what you believe is if other people see the real me, they're not going to want me either. They're going to reject me, abandon me, neglect me like parents did. And so you create the third layer, which is the persona. And those are your masks. And so you think if I was funnier, then people would like me. If I had a better body, people would like me. If I was smarter, all of those things. So you start wearing masks to get people to like you, but those masks are there to hide the real self. Okay? And then the final circle, the ideal self, is what you wish you were. So the masks are what you're trying to be. The ideal is always in your head. If only I had the perfect body. If only I was super funny. If only I was outgoing all the time and was very sociable. That's the ideal picture you have inside. Okay? So that's inside of you. If you've never thought of that, that might help you get a picture of the 4 people that you call self. Okay? Now let me take that one step further. What that critic also does is it compares the real self with the ideal self constantly. So every day when you do something, the critic goes, see, you're not like you could be or should be. And so the critic is always saying, should. You should do this, you should be this way, etc. And it's always comparing how you are with how you should be. And guess what? You always fail. So the critic ends up causing that real self, and it's a distorted picture of yourself, but it always makes it even worse and worse and worse. And so shame is actually a system that has no way of healing itself. But the longer you stay in it, the worse your shame gets, because the critic is going to make it that way. Now take that a little bit further to the third thing that the critic does. So let's say somebody comes up to you and they say, I really like you. You have a very caring heart. Now all of you can just hear the critic in your head going, if they really knew me, they wouldn't say that. Or, I wonder what they want. They're just saying that because they got a thing they're using me. So the critic is discounting any positive comments from other people. So the critic is basically committed to maintain the belief that I'm not good enough, and has put all kinds of systems in place that nothing will overturn that belief. And that person goes out to start a relationship, and they live in the persona and wear the mask and say they can never see the real me, because if they see me, they'll reject me. So codependency is two people living in the persona, trying to have a relationship and trying never to let the real self show up. And I'll go into that a little bit further so that you see the dilemma that creates. So shame is the first issue that you have to begin to heal from. If you do not heal from your shame, you will never be able to have a healthy relationship. Your relationships will always end up codependent, which means unhealthy and wound delivering.